Five Nights at Smudgers is a FNaF fun game series developed by Big Trevi. Yes, today we are talking about Thomas the Tank Engine FNaF fun game, and that's before touching an arguably more popular Thomas-based fun game and possibly inspiration for creation of this game, Five Nights at Thomas, which, honestly, while being one of the first popular FNaF fun games, isn't very noteworthy to talk about outside of its existence in my opinion, and each entry can be described in few words. The first game is pretty boring, second one is kinda okay, third one is eh, Dehydrated is a nice remake that didn't deserve to exist if you ask me, and the best way to play these games is via a fun remaster called the Re-Rails Collection. That's as much as you are getting out of me. Going back to the Smudger, however, some of you may not even know who that is, since Smudger is a forgotten character in Thomas the Tank Engine franchise starring in only one episode. First episode of 4th series, Grand Path, which happened over 2 decades ago, when I wasn't even born yet. And he wasn't even a main character of the said episode. Now that I think about it, I may as well go over the story of the episode. Skip here if you don't want to hear it for some reason. Alright, so on one cold night, Engines wanted to tell a story to fall asleep to, and Thomas decided to tell one that he heard from his driver about 3 angels: Falcon, Stuart, and Duke, who was the oldest one. Because of that, Duke was the overseer of Falcon and Stuart and warned them to behave by telling them a story of an older engine he worked with, Smudger. Smudger was cocky and careless and didn't behave well, constantly derailing and spinning his load, and despite Duke's warnings, he didn't stop. And so, as punishment, manager of the mine decided to make him useful by taking his wheels away and putting him behind a shed to act as a generator, only able to watch as others work and think about consequences of his actions. At some point the mine closed, Falcon and Stuart got sold off, not Duke however, and while waiting for someone to take him in, they put Duke in a shed where he fell asleep and then everyone forgot about him, leaving him in there for years. Alright, so now that we know who Smudger is, and listen to a rather disturbing set of events, you see why does Thomas the Tank Engine of all series have such a nervy glow when you look back on it? We can check the games out. There are currently 4 games released, with a 5th one in the works. I will be honest, I only remember the series because of the 4th one. I don't recall getting far exactly, but the game was rather memorable. And I recall watching Game Someone play it, and the game itself being quite fun. However, since we have 3 other games to cover before the 4th one, we should tackle those first before we move to the pinnacle of the series. So let's begin this journey of the slowly rising ridiculousness with the first game. Five Nights at Smudgers, released on 21st of April 2015. From devlogs, I can see that there was a demo released, but unfortunately it seems to not be archived anywhere and is missing from the game page, and Internet Archive doesn't have a copy of it too. There is the gameplay recorded by the Big Trevi, but I can only assume the game is currently lost media. However, what we have access to is Smudgers code. This is the Smudgers version of the button machine hides codes from Five Nights at Treasure Island, because well, that's what people did at the time to hype games up. You input the right numbers, press the right button and boom. Lore. You get a few images of trains and some lore about the trains present in the game, which I think is more than Five Nights at Treasure Island offered, so I guess that's cool. Anyway, 1 month later, the actual game came out. And the first thing we are shown is this cutscene in FNaF 2 style, with scene taken straight from the show, ending with some text of someone laughing. The main menu is simple and yet oddly eerie. The train here, who I assume is Smudger after a deep frying session, looks kind of creepy, especially with background music which oddly fits the visuals. But there's already one issue I see here, and it is the password system. I don't like password systems, and while the only other FNaF fun game I can recall having such thing is Five Nights at Nintendo Land, it is a bit annoying. Starting the game, which requires no password, shows us a New Sodor's newspaper informing us that the Mid-Sodor Railway has been reopened with plans of naming it after Smudger, since he's still stuck in the shed with hopes of rebuilding him. Oh, and of course they need a night guard, because we need an excuse for the game to exist. We're in the office, which, yeah, this is a very amateurish office. Desk in the corner, rather badly made poster, there with photoshopped assets and weird scrolling, which are all basic qualities of early FNaF fan game checked off the list. We also get some text telling us how to move and use lights, which... Before we even start talking about the gameplay, I have to complain about this. I am not sure what the big tree was smoking when making this, but to activate lights in hallways, you need to press arrow keys. Arrow keys. It is such a non-standard thing to see in a FNaF fan game, especially since the doors are closed with buttons that are on the walls, meaning that it was a deliberate choice to make it this way. It's not too uncomfortable, but it sure as hell doesn't feel natural having your right hand move the mouse while the left one is reaching for the arrow keys. I would love to hear why it was made this way, but anyway we get to the phone call from the manager of this place. The call is honestly nothing to write home about, just your standard 911 call welcoming you to the job and explaining basic mechanics. But that is my responsibility. So in the office, as FNaF tradition would have it, you can close doors with these buttons whenever someone is at them and the doors drain power. Your camera tablet is at the bottom of the screen and has over 16 cameras to watch, but most are just filler with only 5 being actually important. All locations also seem to be taken straight from the show, which I think is pretty cool and fitting for the game. Except for a few cameras that were clearly made for the game and have some less than stellar 3D modeled rooms in them. Tonight, our first enemy is Proteus, a train with a supposedly magical lamp that grants wishes. He moves through the railway until he arrives to the office entrance, and then to the left hallway, and from there to the middle door. When he appears in them, close the door. But wait a minute, you ask. Since there is no window, how can we tell he left? Well, that's where the triangles next to the doors come into the play. When doors are closed, and a thread is behind them, shining the light at the respective door makes them turn red, signifying that Fred is behind the door. Every chain does have a sound cue when they move, but it's a bit easier to check if the triangle is red if I'm gonna be honest. Also, the door sprite seems to be an MS Paint drawing, although I don't think it looks that bad. Just a bit simple, and honestly, it's all for night 1. After each night, we are told what the password for the next night is, and are shown a cutscene. Tonight's cutscene shows the moment where Smudgers' fate was sealed, ending with text saying, "You better not." Night 2 introduces Bertram, who is a yet another train that was left to rust and abandoned until he was rediscovered later and brought here. He's essentially a second Proteus going to the right door instead of the left one. But more important and mechanically interesting, Scruffy. Scruffy isn't a train, but an open wagon meant for transporting items, and he appeared in only one episode, and in the said episode he was torn apart. Cool. And he's also the balloon boy of the game, meaning that if he enters the office, you are dead because the door buttons get... Let's say Scruffy eats them and move on to saying that if he does it, you are dead. So how do we prevent our death? Well, Scruffy doesn't go to the doors, instead choosing to go through the abandoned mine shafts underneath the station. At Camp 12 and 13, which only Scruffy can enter. When you hear a sound of rocks falling, you need to check both cameras for Scruffy and lock the right mine entrance. However, the logs run on a limited steam power, which you can recharge at Camp 10. Scruffy at first seems kind of random, but he has a pretty consistent pattern of entering one mine after another, most often starting with West Mine Corner, before moving to the West Mine proper, Camp 13 and 12 respectively, and will rotate between entering one mine after another for the whole night. He's pretty fun to deal with once you notice his pattern, and he's just a cool character in general. This time, instead of getting one code, we get 2 codes. Huh, that's interesting. Tonight we are shown Smudger already stuck in the shed, ending with the text, "I'm coming for you." Okay, this actually spooked me, I will give the game that. So as shown to us and told by the fungi, Smudger has been fixed and is now an active threat. Look, even his sprite on camera has changed to be more smug. He is honestly his own beast. First, he acts like Proteus coming to the middle door. Unlike Proteus, however, he doesn't appear in the doorways, meaning that if you leave them open, you are dead. Successfully blocking Smudger, however, makes him retreat to the south mine, at which point you need to close it until he leaves. Smudger is definitely the one enemy you need to keep the most track of, especially if he combos with Scruffy and both enter the mine at the same time, meaning you have to go to the recharge station for the steam power to keep it up and hope one of them leaves before you run out of it. Overall, I think he was a pretty good last addition to the roster. Yeah, I'm not joking. Smudger is the last enemy to be added to the game, and honestly, I feel like it's a little not enough. Sure, we do have 4 enemies in total, but I really feel like adding one more threat wouldn't hurt the game's balance too much. Oh right, I should show you what the other code did since I already died and I'm on the title screen, so may as well enter it. Toys, huh? Oh yeah, I did see one on night 3 at Camp 3. Clicking Produce brings us to minigame, whereas Shadow Smudger we ride the rails till we find Produce. Touch him and I guess possess him? I guess that's why trains are evil. And the end of the night cutscene shows us the shed again, but Smudger's eyes are gone and the shadow version of him is following my cursor, which must mean that he died and the shadow version of him is some kind of soul. Can trains die? Okay, maybe that's a question for later, because for night 4 and 5 I don't have much to say. The fungi is questioning if the trains are moving and attacking us, which they are, and realizes that on night 5. As for toys, there's Bertram's toy at Camp 5 on night 4, showing us the position of both Bertram and Scruffy. And the end of night cutscene shows us the demo office? That's interesting. Some trains appear in it, then Shadow Smudger, and then there's text, there's nothing quite like it. And the last toy can be found on Camp 9, showing us Shadow Smudger returning to his body. Yeah, I really can't say much more about the game itself. It is pretty solid and rather tight, but outside of Smudger and Scruffy attacking together at the same time, I struggled with finding anything remotely hard or worth complaining about for night 1 and 5. Because outside of using arrow keys for lights, I think the rest of the game is perfectly fine as it is. Nothing too special, but also nothing offensive. For finishing night 5 we get paycheck addressed to Max Reynolds with the same newspaper in the background and get one final code to access night 6. However, I have to confess something about all the games. None of these games feature a custom night of any kind, outside of the 4th game that has it as a separate executable, but I don't count it, and each game features 6 nights in total. However, I think the max mode is secretly hidden in the last night because they are way harder than the rest of the game. Well, why am I telling you all of this then? Well, because I was not prepared for night 6 of my Night at Smudgers 1. So yeah, since night 6 is max mode, that means everyone moves at max speed. And for some reason, Smudger is allowed to move like every 5 seconds. However, that also means that everyone is very consistent, moving in exact same pattern every single attempt, meaning that technically you could try to memorize everyone's movement patterns. However, don't forget, this is still a max mode, meaning that this is still a rather hard challenge. And to me, this was one of the hardest max modes I have ever attempted in my life. Learning Smudger's whistles, easy. Learning when Scruffy appears, also easy. Learning to actually manage your power for doors, impossible. Seriously, it does not feel like you are given enough power to survive this night. I would always run out around 4 and 5 am. And that wouldn't be such an issue, even with almost 9-minute long nights, if restarting night wasn't such a pain, because don't forget, this game doesn't have a save file, it uses passwords. So every time you want to retry, you have to put in the code, and then you get to try it again. It was outright demoralizing to try to beat this, like it wasn't meant to be finished by a mortal being. And I unfortunately am mortal. But I guess not only I had that issue, because Big Trevi himself uploaded a video of him beating the night and leaving some tips in the description, which kind of helped. Honestly, even with it and getting very consistent with the flow of the night, I would always run out of power by 5 am. Like, come on man, each night is already 9 minutes long. You couldn't make this a bit easier or actually test it? I did run into this bug where after Smudger jumpscares you from the cave, it would sometimes disable cameras and doors but keep me alive. However, I would be killed no matter what. Those trains are not merciful. And you know what? I have to admit it. I did not beat night 6 of Five Nights at Smudgers 1. This one was too much for me. Which is why I decided to use the footage from someone who beat it, that being Rainbow Hype. He actually beat every night 6 in Five Nights at Smudgers games, which is very cool. But I bet the rest of the night 6s too, so maybe this one is just very hard for me, I don't know. Let's just get to the ending. So, for beating night 6, you are given a newspaper detailing an incident that occurred in the railway 1 week after opening it, where because of Smudger, one of their workers was sent to the hospital, and Smudger has also fled the scene of the crime and is now considered a wanted criminal. I didn't know trains can be wanted. So this was Five Nights at Smudgers. A pretty... You know what, this was a rather basic FNaF fun game. Outside of the Thomas the Tank Engine aesthetics, it's honestly just a rather poorly made PNG FNAF fun game. Better than Five Nights at Thomas, but not as good as other games that were released at the time. Mechanics were alright, the plot was there isn't really much to talk about it, if I'm going to be honest. It was an okay time into Night 6, which I really wonder if it has worse completion ratio to Ultimate Custom Night, but whatever. Five Nights at Smudgers got picked up by some YouTubers, did alright numbers wise, and as such, a few weeks later, a page for the second game was put up. Five Nights at Smudgers 2 was released on May 23rd, 2015. This game also had a demo version, but it also seems to not have been archived anywhere. Well, with the game being developed in less than a month since the last one, I sure wonder what quality will be, since from my experience, the shorter the development time, the worse fun game seems to get. Well, let's check it out. So open to this way less terrifying menu. I don't know, like the previous one evoked this feeling of dread in me, but this one's just a standard menu. Starting a new game, we get informed that there is another station opening up, this time being Bertram's station 5 months after the last one. And of course they need a guard, you get the gist. So the office this time is better. No doors this time since this is the sequel game, but I'd say this office is arranged better than the first one. And with A and D keys, you can look at the hallways on left and right. Thank God it's not the arrow keys. We get a call, get welcomed, and told that the trains are now equipped with some new cool systems that allow them to drive off the rails.
Well, they fitted the trains with a new advanced transporting system, meaning they can move off the train tracks as well.
Doesn't that mean they are essentially cars now? Like, a train without a rail to ride on is pretty much just a car, right? Whatever, that just means they can come to me, and with that comes our way to defend ourselves. Diesel fuel. By pressing the diesel button, we spray some diesel fumes around the office, and whenever a train comes into the office, they are scared away because apparently diesels are like mortal enemies to trains. I don't know, I don't read Thomas lore. Oh, and of course with middle button you can refill the diesel. Tonight you will be paid visit by Produce and Bertram again. Produce comes from the right, Bertram from the left. You can try monitoring them on cameras, but most are useless since they appear in hallways anyway. Now that I think about it, you don't even really need hallways because they come to the office anyway, and that's when you spray them. So what is the purpose of hallways? No matter, whatever. If train is in the office, spray diesel on them and... Where is this music coming from? No one is near me and... Okay, it's gone. I guess that's good. Anyway, this is all for Night 1. After the night, you play a minigame where a Smudger, just like in the last game, you possess some trains. But this time, you go for the diesel trains. These are Class 40 and Derek, the two diesel trains that are on the station. Since they are diesel, they will not be fooled by you spraying diesel on them. After all, it flows through their veins. Pipes? Wait, that sounds kind of morbid actually. So instead of using diesel fumes, you have another gadget at your disposal, an alarm. Pressing it causes alarm to blare, and if diesel is near your office, which would become 15, it will make them go away. They are simple to deal with, and right now using alarm has no consequences, but I wouldn't classify them as like a big threat, more of an inconvenience. Who is turning the music on? Seriously, what is up with this? And I just read about their appearance count, and they bet the trains, both of them appearing in at least 2 different episodes. I'm starting to see a pattern with the choice of cast here, but let's keep going. In tonight's minigame, Smudger decides to possess a bunch of lorries. These lorries specifically are called Horrid Lorries, and appeared in only 1 episode. In the gameplay, in spite of there being 3 lorries, you only deal with 1 per night, and all operate in the same way with the introduction of power breakers on cam 11 and 13. If lorry is on the same camera as the breaker, it will begin draining its power, and when it's gone, you have either alarm or diesel power disabled, which is a death sentence. To protect yourself from that, you can lock 1 power box, preventing draining. Simple, but enjoyable mechanic. Oh, and also, very casually, Fungi mentions that they keep Smudger in here. You know, the train that was wanted for injuring a worker a few months ago. Yeah, I have no clue why he is here or why the owner let him stay, but he is now our 3rd engine enemy. Unlike Proteus or Bertram, he appears immediately in the office, skipping the hallways and also needing to be sprayed. But he also has a secondary mechanic where using the alarm causes him to speed up, which in turn means that using an alarm needs to be timed with the appearance of diesels in the hallway and be as short as possible, because if you don't recharge diesel in time, you get comboed by trap. Okay, who is playing the music? It isn't even a bad track, but god, it is so loud compared to everything else. Isn't Smudger playing it as an attempt to make us deaf? Wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, this is everyone. I say compared to the first game, the gameplay is better and much more smooth, but once again, it is night 3, and we have 3 more nights of nothing being added. I guess I can talk about the cameras and trains, since instead of using PNGs, it uses some basic models which don't look bad, but outside of Camp 15 and Power Breakers, you don't need to check the cameras all that much. Yeah, it all looks alright for a 2015 fan game, but it is also nothing special. Alright, let's speedrun the story of this game then. Night 4 minigame shows us Smudger meeting up with some kind of ghost train? I'm not sure who could that even be. Night 4 call tells us police are investigating the station to find Smudger, as expected, and that we won't be getting more calls because of the investigation. And at the end of the night we play as this guy? I guess it's us. We walk into the building and meet up with this fancy guy. It turns out we play as the owner of the first railway, asking for the location of Duke. You know, that one train that was warning Smudger about consequences of his actions? However, the owner of Bertram Station, the fancy guy, says that Duke has been missing since March and tells us to leave. I will be honest, I am pretty bored by night 5 since nothing new is being added. And we don't even have any phone calls to go over, so let's just skip to the paycheck. We get a paycheck for Dwayne Ayers. Although Memos is saying snitch, so I assume after night 3 we were the one who snitched to the police about Smudger's whereabouts. And of course we have night 6. I'll be honest, while I did die a few times in this night, I'm still positive it is miles easier than the first game's night 6. I bet it in like 5 tries, so... It's weird to go from literal hell to something that is kind of enjoyable, but also not really because the gameplay is a bit boring. Ending the night, we get a newspaper saying that Bertram's station was crushed as a result of a landslide caused by a storm. All engines that were on the station are presumed destroyed, and Smudger has once again escaped the police. Well, I returned to the menu and... my star for finishing night 5 is gone. Cool, there isn't even an extras menu and I get penalized for finishing that last night. Very cool. Either way, this was all for 5 Nights at Smudgers 2. An okay-ish game if you ask me. Compared to the original mess of graphics that were kind of charming, this one was more clean and sterile, which is a bit of a minus in my opinion, but I also think that the mechanics just weren't all that compelling. Spraying diesel and waiting for it to recharge was fine, but alarm and power breakers didn't add enough in my opinion to break the monotony of the base gameplay loop. Which is not that great. Whatever, it doesn't matter if this game was mediocre, it still got attention on YouTube, and the story is clearly not over, so of course, the third game was made. Five Nights at Smudgers 3 was released on May 21st, 2016. Yeah, compared to the 2 other entries, this one was actually allowed to bake slowly for a whole year. It was apparently because Trevi's old laptop couldn't handle ClickTeam all that well and would break down occasionally, causing him to lose progress on the game that he was not satisfied with. But thankfully, after getting a new computer, he was back to developing Smudgers 3 in full force. Once again, the demo that was up is gone, and so are old gameplay screenshots. That's a bit of a bummer. But in spite of all the difficulties, it eventually released, and seemed to be rather positively received, though I can see some people complaining about the difficulty on later nights. Well, it can't be worse than Smudgers 1 Night 6, right? Well, let's check it out. When starting the game up, every single time you are treated to this cutscene of Smudger breaking out of the shed from the last game. You cannot skip it, which kind of sucks. Anyway, the main menu is still rather basic, but it's at least more interesting than the last one. Also, the music is pretty good. Starting the new game, we get informed that a new museum is going to open in the place of Midsummer Railway, the location from the first game. As it is tradition for night 1 of FNaF 3 fan games, there are no threads to discuss, but I think I may as well talk about basics, like the cameras. They are a great step up compared to the last time Trevi tried modeling rooms, and actually look quite decent now. It doesn't look exactly like a museum, but I'd say it does the job. We have 2 levels with mines being below that we can close, and maintenance panel on our right. Office itself looks A bit poor if I'm going to be honest. Like, it looks better than the first two offices, but the lines on walls make it seem like this office is a prototype that never got proper wall textures, which is weird considering cameras have textures on them. It is just a weird design choice. And lastly, the Funko was nothing to really write home about, but the fungi does mention we used to work at the Mid-Solar Railway, not the one in the first game, the original Mid-Solar Railway. And by extension, we are old as fuck.
We also know that you worked on the Mid-Solar Railway back in the day. That's pretty impressive. Wow. Jeez. 98 years old. It's impressive how you're still not dead. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound... Although, I didn't mean to sound rude there.
Not sure how we are allowed to work, but whatever. I guess you just can't retire on Sodor. You have to work till you are dead. And since no threats are active, I have to say this is all for tonight. And just like the last time, after each night we are treated to a minigame. We seem to play as this guy who just woke up. We go outside to check what it was, and it's Smudger? How the hell did he get here? Isn't this the parking lot? Our guy is surprised he is alive, as expected, and Smudger is disappointed that we left other trains to rot on the Bertram station, as we are apparently the owner of that station and Smudger's railway. Our guy apologizes, saying that he was scared and panicked after the landslide, and mentions that not only is the police looking for both of them, since one committed a crime and other covered, and gives him the news that Smudgers Railway has reopened as the museum, with someone familiar to him working there. It is us, the original owner of the Mid-Solar Railway, who left him to rot all those years ago. Our guy denies helping Smudger in any more than just informing him, and as such, Smudger disappears just as quickly as he appeared. Oh, it's showdown. So yeah, now we have Smudger trying to kill our 98-year-old us. But thankfully, we have a few ways to defend ourselves. First of all, let's start with mine entrances acting like FNaF 3 vents. If Smudger enters one with sounds of rocks falling, close the mine. And yes, Smudger is on rails in spite of supposedly not needing them anymore. I'm not sure if it's a power move or if he is stupid. Second way is through two entrances, those being cam 10 by going through the top path and cam 9 by going through the bottom path. If Smudger gets past one of them, you are toast. To prevent him from doing so, you need to press the switch button to send him back. I kind of thought this would work like some of those rotating rails where we would rotate Smudger to go the opposite way, but this isn't that bad of an idea too. There are also two more on cam 2 and 4, but I didn't find them to be as useful as the other two. And they can also break, which means you need to sometimes go to the right and fix them on maintenance panel. Tonight, as you can guess, he's rather easy to deal with, but later on, yeah, it gets a bit more difficult. This minigame shows us a scene with Duke, the one train we haven't seen yet, but seems important to the story of the game. It's nothing too complex though, Duke is simply sent to deliver some cargo during the night, and yeah, that's honestly about it. On night 3, since the museum was supposed to hold a horror tour, a new attraction is introduced, Scruffy. And Scruffy was supposed to be a part of the set tour, but the railway realized too late that he doesn't fit the tracks, so they just left him in the back room. He is the distraction from Smudger and did not have that bad one at that. He will slowly peek out from the room, and to move him back, you need to turn off the lights in his room. However, because of funky electronics like always, it has a quirk that it cannot stay off if you change the camera. So essentially you need to stay on the camera to keep the light off and push Scruffy back while Smudger is moving closer to you. And light sometimes breaks, forcing you to reboot it. Honestly, I have no problems with Scruffy. He is a simple and effective enemy. That's just all there is to him. And to be fair, I would say that this game was rather easy because A, Smudger is very easy to predict and Scruffy is a non-threat. But there is something I forgot to mention. Because it is a FNaF 3 fan game, which means that we need something that isn't actually able to kill you. So let's talk about ghost trains. These are the Phantom animatronic replacements, and pretty annoying ones at that. Not that they can break your system and force you away from the cameras, no, because they have a whole mechanic on their own, heart monitor. Every time you get jump scared by a ghost, it goes up by one notch, fill it to the max, and we die to a heart attack. I guess being old does have its drawbacks. And I think it would be fine if all of them had one specific camera they can appear on, which is true for most of them. Loris, Class 40, Proteus, Derek all appear on specific cameras, from what I can tell. Bertram, however? Oh, he can appear on any camera he wants to. Multiple times in a row, in fact, especially on later nights, even without being forced to reboot the system because of a jump scare, he became very annoying. And while I only died to them once, I don't think those chains are implemented all that well. Now let's move to tonight's minigame, which seems to have the most lore importance so far. An event from all the way back in the day, after the closure of Mid-Sodor Railway. During what I assume is the moment when Duke was getting rescued, Smudger is also hoping to be rescued, since he thinks that he sat in the shed for long enough, he has learned the lesson and is ready to return to work. He just needs his old pal Duke to tell the workers that he's in the shed. However, when asked if anyone is left, Duke says nope, everyone is evacuated, and after saying some snacky words towards Smudger, he drives off with the walkers, leaving Smudger to rot in the shed for the foreseeable future. You know what, I'm not surprised he is so angry and cold now. Night 4 introduces the last threat, who I have to say is the worst enemy yet. You can't see them because they are under you. Yes, they live in the floor and really want to get out of there. This is Thumper, a heavy-duty drilling machine that appeared in only one episode and is the thing that is somehow stuck under our floor. Occasionally, while you are existing, turning off lights or watching Smudger, he will begin drilling the floor, lowering its strength until it drops to 0, and you can guess what happens then. To stop him, you need to drop everything you are doing, head to reboot panel and click on circuits option to immediately stop him from drilling for a while. Doesn't sound too complex, now does it? Well, it isn't, but he's just another way to stop you from keeping eye on Smudger, but oh, you will see why he's such a pain in the ass very, very soon. Tonight's minigame act scene shows us the incident from the first game, the one where Worker got hurt because of Smudger, which as it turns out wasn't his fault, it was actually the Worker's fault, as heard in the Night 2 phone call.
Also, do not take Smudger out of his generator shed. While taking a look at him last night, I noticed that his pistons are still extremely damaged and most likely faulty, and can most likely be set off by being lifted onto the tracks. If they do go off, it will cause him to shoot forward, possibly damaging something, or even worse, someone. So again, do not take Smudger out of his generator shed tomorrow. Until we can get those pistons of his fixed, he can't be going back on the rails.
So yeah, the workers don't do that, and you can guess what happened. Night 5 is just harder than Night 4, we are not there yet, but believe me, I am about to get very mad at the next night. Cutscene this time is the longest one in the game. Same night as Duke manages to deliver the cargo, he begins his ride back home in spite of the rain. However, as he reaches a bridge, he hears another train on the other side, and after hearing a whistle, it turns out to be none other than Smudger. Duke is, understandably, surprised to see him here since not only a lot of time has passed, he was also buried under a lot of rubble after that storm. Smudger only confirms what Duke suspected and begins retelling the story from his perspective. He acknowledges that he shouldn't have acted the way he did and should have listened to Duke when there was still time. Then Smudger is changed into a generator and while sitting there, watching everyone work, he has a change of heart and hopes that he will be given a second chance. But then the mine closed, the landslide happened, and all hope was lost to him when Duke said that no one was left in the station. And as it turns out, Smudger canonically died few years later, only to come back as a shadow version of him, able to only roam the station and look around for help. But few decades later, Mid-Sodor Railway is reopened, and Smudger seizes as an opportunity to find Duke. He possesses the engines of the station with purpose of looking for Duke, and when his physical body was fixed, Smudger returned to his old body and woke up for the first time in ages. Finishing the story, he adds that he almost killed few guards looking for him, and the old manager who he still plans on killing because, well, he was the one who put him into the shed in the first place. And after hearing all of this, Duke thinks that Smudger is full of shit for wanting anything. And just as Smudger is about to attack Duke, someone connects with Duke from behind and takes him away before Smudger can do anything. And just as Smudger is about to follow, a police helicopter arrives and Smudger has to flee the scene, unable to follow Duke. You know what? I have to give Troy that. I am actually kind of invested in this story. Maybe it is simply because it is a very transparent story and doesn't hide any information like pretty much every other fun game does. But hey, At least I can enjoy it and actually comment on it. But all good things must come to an end, because in spite of getting a star, we have one more night to play, called the Revenge Night. Oh my god, the Revenge Night was such a pain in the... Okay, you know what, I can't even keep the act up, because this is nowhere near the torture levels of Smudgers 1 Night 6. Compared to that Night 6, I felt like challenge here was actually kind of fair and didn't rely on as much luck as the first game did. Smudger is honestly still a rather big threat, even if I did see a small design flaw, that being the fact that after he leaves Cam 9 or both of these manshafts, he will attack you no matter what. He does not go to Cam 10, even if Cam 10 is literally in front of our office. Maybe it would make the game a little too easy, but I don't know, it just feels like a weird thing to omit. Other than that, every time you switch him back, just check if he's going for the mine, and you should be golden. Scruffy was a bit annoying, and I did die to him, but I'll blame that on Thumper, because holy shit, he is one big shit stain on the game's balance. Thumper in previous nights would take a bit of floor percentage when attacking you, but now he's just draining it so fast. And with the slow turning speed, unless you begin predicting his activations, which you have to start doing, you will always lose around 10% or more of floor strength. He activates every half a minute or so essentially you need to drop everything just to deal with him. Once you begin predicting when he activates, he's not that bad, but he's definitely the hardest part about this night. And yeah, that's honestly all that was difficult tonight. I really didn't find anyone else, or anything else for that matter, to be that hard, so... yeah, I guess that's why it was easier than Five Nights at Smudgers 1 Night 6. But hey, I eventually made it and was treated to the revenge. Once again in the office, the old manager says that he's happy he won't have to see Smudger again, before light begins to flicker and we get jump scared. In the end, Smudger got his revenge. And the last minigame plays, where as Bertram's manager, we arrived at the station to find the other engines. We pass by a few locations, wondering why it's so clean, and we find all of them repaired. What could that be? Ah, it seems we have a new antagonist on our hands. And with that review, the credits roll. And with that, the game is over. Well, okay, there is the extras menu with characters, jumpscares, some beta content, and odd jumpscares that are way better than the ones found in the game. Seriously, look at the difference. I much prefer the scrapped ones. However, while exploring the page, you may see a red train in the corner to get a C, and clicking him gives you a secret cutscene. And it's pretty much an evil villain monologue saying that all Smudger trains are under his control and that Smudger is just repeating the mistakes of people of Sodor who make engines their slaves, and once Smudger is found, it's kaboom. And this is the end of Smudgers 3. Once again, a rather good entry if you ask me. I really didn't find the base 5 nights to be difficult at all. I bet them all on my first try and in one sitting, and I can see how Night 6 can be a pain to complete, but man was it way easier than Smudgers 1 Night 6. What else can I say? I liked the graphics for the most part, mechanics as well, even if they are a bit counterintuitive, and the story is shaping up quite nicely. I'd say for the time this was a very high quality FNaF fun game, and if you want to try it, I recommend it. This game seems to gather less attention than the last two did, but from the ending, we can see that the story is clearly not concluded. So it's time to wait for the fourth entry to finish up the story. And if I was a Five Nights at Smudgers fan in 2016, god would I wait a while for the conclusion to this story. Five Nights at Smudgers 4 The Engines at War is the supposed conclusion to the story of Five Nights at Smudgers, released on 22nd of December 2019. Yeah, 2019, 3 whole years after the release of the third one. Now, why would one game take such a long time to release? Well, to put it simply, ambition. The game is very ambitious for a FNaF fun game, with multiple levels with different mechanics, boss fights, several reworks of the game, changes in graphics because Cherry decided to model everything himself, more on that in a minute, and why of course, several cases of almost cancelling your game. because every troubled FNaF fan game has to have it. From one of the first new cancellations, we got a demo of the old version, so before I continue, let's quickly check that out. Well, if this doesn't scream prototype, I don't know what else would. The title screen is a simple image of the Scar Ghost Train, I guess, Smudger and Red Train from before. We are teased with levels as an option, but truth be told, there is only one level in this demo. Beginning it, we are placed in a backyard of some kind. Wait, isn't this the backyard of the Bertram station manager? Our goal is simple: avoid enemies we see on the minimap of our phone, hide in the car when you see a threat, that being a lorry, and drink coffee to stay awake. And as you can see, everything looks different compared to the last time we saw Smudgers. Well, that's because Trevi decided to model everything himself, and to be honest, it doesn't look half that bad. Sure, it could use maybe a bit more texture and less gloss, but you know what? This looks oddly nostalgic. It's like their style was trying to replicate the early look of FNaF fan games, which honestly looks kind of cool here. I'm not sure if it was the intention, but it is definitely an iconic part of this game, and it only improves on full release, as you will see. So you get to 10 PM, get told it's safe to continue, and the game restarts the section. Yeah, this is it. But don't forget, this came from a cancelled version, which was rebooted into what it is today. A lot, and I do mean a lot of teasers and voice casting later, the game was released. And from what I can tell, the wait was worth it, since it seemed to become the most well-known entry in the series. But from my time with it, wow, this game has a lot to unpack, so I better begin sooner than later. We begin with an exposition dump by Bertram's manager, who I'm just gonna call by canon name Tim. He begins filling us some details on what happened between this and the last game. So the old manager is still dead, other trains are possessed by a new villain, Stanley, who was also apparently a train at the Mid-Solar Railway, who was Smudger's rival back in the day and was turned into a pump engine and forgotten about. But now he's back for revenge after gaining similar powers to Smudgers after dying. Oh, and he also kidnapped Duke when he was talking with Smudger in the Night Fire cutscene of the last game. Tim, still believing Smudger and Duke can reconcile and Smudger be redeemed for kind of his, but not really accident, finds Smudger about to scrap himself for killing the old manager and manages to talk him out of it. I didn't know he regretted killing that guy in the first place, but whatever. What matters is that Smudger is not evil. And so Tim signs up for night guard position at Gerald's hometown to monitor Stanley's hideout from safe distance, while both also try to unpossess any engines Stanley possessed. Well, that's a lot, and the main menu is underwhelming. For the most part, it is a still image that sometimes alternates between small animation, but for the most part, it's an upgraded version of the original title screen. Which, you know, is good. I didn't really like that one, but this one isn't that much better and is quite cluttered. Like, did we need to always be told we can hover over the achievements to see how to unlock them? Or have the tips button that can spoil the game? Yeah, I think those could have been left out. Okay, that may have been too negative. Let's just press play and begin the game. Oh, would you look at that? A map of the island of Sodor. It seems we have 3 mission types, but right now, we can only select our first night. And so we begin our shift with a lot of things thrown at you, so maybe let's just focus on something small, like the phone in the corner, which was borrowed from the demo version. With it we can pick up our phone call from the manager, who welcomes us, explains what systems we have, and that's about it. More worryingly, there are no defense systems on the station, so how do we defend ourselves? Well, this thing in front of us with green tubes is the answer. This, as described on the left, is an air sentry. It holds 2 charges, and by pressing Ctrl, we fire off some air. Once it's fully depleted, you need to recharge it by mashing the R key, and it has to be fully reloaded until you can use it again. Other than that, we have a monitor on the left that is turned off tonight, and with spacebar you can look behind you where you see this window and a TV monitor in the corner showing what is in front of you. It will all come together, trust me. And I don't think I need to mention it, but this is the best office in this series, pretty well furnished and functions great, even if camera is a bit wonky. The cameras are oddly small? No, not the image itself, it is fine, but the buttons are tiny compared to the rest of the UI. Currently we have the bottom portion of the map to work with, since the rest of the cameras are supposedly under construction. Overall, I think the cameras have improved quite a lot since the third game. And now I can talk about the art style because, wow, it has improved quite a lot since the demo version. The shapes are still simple, the colors are still simple, the textures are few and far between, and yet it all looks so good, like you took an early FNaF fan game and actually polished it up. It has this oddly nostalgic look to it, and yet it remains pretty great on its own. But now it is time to meet our enemies, and who else will it be than Proteus and Bertram? And under Stanley's control, both seem to get a bit of an upgrade. Well, okay, Proteus looks the same, but Bertram was given the spikes around his body, which look as menacing as Goofy. Both of them slowly make their way to your office through yellow and brown route announced by the voice intercom.
Alert, unauthorized personnel in sector yellow.
Sooner or later they will appear at your window with a pretty cool music playing, and when they open the door, shoot them with the air. I'm gonna be honest though, how does compressed air help us defend against several ton heavy trains? Like, I'm not sure if the logic is applied here, but you know what? This is a fun mechanic. But outside of the two trains, that is all for night 1. We are thrown back into the menu. But don't worry, the progress is actually saved and there is no password system to speak of. And look, we do have the first mission. Wanted lorry, ready for us to begin. Okay, so we play as Tim trying to catch up with the first lorry and get noticed by a police car. So of course, to catch up with the lorry, the only thing we can do is murder. You move with WSAD keys, aim with the mouse, and reload gun with spacebar. Why not R, since that's what we use for night gameplay, but whatever. Actually, you don't even need to shoot him all that much because he has out of 5 frames, so maybe you won't even need to reload. But after a bit he explodes and we give Lori a bump, ending the mission. And now we have Night 2 unlocked. On Night 2 we actually get in touch with Smudger, who informs us of the next 2 threats. Returning Scruffy and newcomer Mowy the Landmower. Yes, a landmower is going after us. And he's an original character, which is kind of cool, but seriously? A landmower? Well, to be fair, they are quite dangerous, so I guess that makes sense. So Scruffy is once again the guy that distracts you, laughing when moving, and when arriving to office you need to look behind you with spacebar. Mowy on the other hand gets a whole new mechanic, scanning laser. In Cam 2C, now we have a new button. Clicking it scans the garage for motion, and when it detects something, it shows you a color which corresponds to a gate we can lock down on the panel to our left. You click the correct color, check if color is gone off the camera, and then open the gate to not waste power. For how easy this mechanic is, my god, was Mowy the most common cause of death compared to literally everyone else. The fact it's a 2-step action and you aren't given too much time to close the gate after he's detected doesn't really help, especially later on with even more chaos added. But if you are curious, I secretly adore him, I really like him. Supplement mortal position to Mowy. And now we unlock the next mission, Big Rigs Battle. This mission is a 2-parter. In the first part, our neighborhood has been apparently filled with explosives by Lori 2, and Tim has to disarm them before they explode. But instead of running around, we have to drive in this truck which, to say it lightly, controls like shit. It accelerates way too fast, turns extremely sharp, and has hitbox so weird I cannot tell you how was this not checked twice. Oh, and did I forget to mention that there is traffic driving around and that you have limited health with few iframes? Personally, this is the second worst minigame in the whole game. I do not like the controls. The objective, while fairly easy to complete, is made 10 times harder because of the controls, and going slow to avoid crashing into other cars is next to impossible. I'm just surprised that this wasn't checked or reworked in some way. And there's also this mugging car who you have to ram into to get rid of while he shoots you. Okay, let's just move to part 2. The second half of the mission has us chasing down Lori 2 protected by Greg the Bus, who is also an original character and he throws tires at you which you have to avoid. You bump into him enough times, bump Lori and you finish the mission. This mission is way easier than the first one was. The controls are the same, you don't have to even shoot him, you just bump into him over and over until you win. Honestly, if anything, this mission is a bit underwhelming. But also I have one question. Where the hell are we? This looks like some desert canyon and not, you know, grassland of Sodor. I thought this would take place on some kind of speedway or something because we were just in the town, but we are suddenly on this weird desert. I guess the climate is so bad that there is now a desert on Sodor. You know what, enough whining, let's just move to night 3. Tonight you received a phone call from FBI. Don't worry, it's just automatic message, we aren't caught yet. But the message itself is about an escaped specimen simply called the Train. It is a ghost train, not the same ghost train as in the title screen, but he may just be better than that guy by the design alone. The rusted look on his frame, the dead eyes, I don't know why, but they really are spooky. Maybe a simple type of spooky, but spooky regardless. And it all ties in with his gameplay mechanic. It starts in the smelting shed, and when it appears, it causes a new music track to play, which is so good at making you unsettled it's unbelievable. It's in the same game as FNaF 2 ambience equivalent. It will slowly come closer to leaving the shed and eventually darts off from a connected camera to your office. You then look behind you to see the train fill the whole camera screen until it leaves to repeat the cycle. And while yes, I am very well aware that this is basically Foxy, this moment honestly just cemented it as my favorite train in the game. The build-up, the aura, is just so immaculate that it doesn't compare to anyone else in this game. And finishing the night, we get our first boss fight, in ground or flight. Smudger was on his way to unpossessed trains, but is caught by this plane and has to fight it. The fight is simple on paper. You move from side to side, shoot call at planes, and use shadow shields to become invincible for a few seconds. The plane can also move from side to side, shoot at you with a machine gun, and drop bombs. The problem is that, as you can see on the gameplay here, neither of them are announced. You cannot predict when the salvo from the machine gun will fire, or when the bomb will drop. And as you can guess, the way to avoid them should be to just move out of the way or use the shadow shield. But because you are now a train, your hitbox is wider than my whole body is, meaning that most of the time you will be getting hit right into the face by just trying to dodge the bullets, only to get hit by the missile because once again, you have barely any iframes. Boss on the other hand of course has like a million of them. And once again, you do have a shield that makes you invincible, but you will still be taking a lot of cheap hits from the plane. The fight also kinda just drags on because of the iframes, and it's not that engaging if you ask me, especially since most attacks are unavoidable. I would still give it like 6 out of 10. Alright, one plane shot down, time to move to night 4. This time Smudger ordered that Sugar! As a new threat appears behind us. Diesel 10, who you may know from that one Thomas movie that is apparently not canon because it implies Sodor exists in a pocket dimension or something, I don't know, I didn't watch it. Fine, okay, I'm going to check it out. Give me an hour and a half. Okay, so Sodor really does exist in a pocket dimension, and as it turns out, the mechanic may just originate from the movie, because rather early into the movie there is a scene where Diesel 10 attacks the shed where trains were sipping out with Conductor, and since Conductor was unable to escape, he threatens Diesel 10 with sugar, which actually makes him back away, so there you go, history lesson. Oh, and Diesel 10 was definitely the best part of the movie, I really liked his character. What was I talking about again? Oh right, night 4 of Five Nights at Smudgers 4. So, occasionally, from time to time, you will see Diesel 10 in the window. And to push him back, you throw sugar at him. When you throw it, you use 10% of sugar, and you can have 50 as max. You can also refill it anytime you want to. Now, how do you refill a bag of sugar without, you know, more sugar bucks? No idea, but I like what this mechanic adds to the gameplay because now my attention is split between the train, Maui and Diesel. And this being the last enemy added for the main night gameplay, I have to say I really like the gameplay loop here. Sure, Maui is a little annoying, but he's still miles better than having a music box, which is definitely a positive for the whole series for not having a single music box. Train is foxy, meaning it's great, and Diesel is quite fun to balance between everyone else. Bertram, Scruffy and Proteus very much get sidelined for me. I kinda just deal with them when they come and forget they exist until they come back. The other guys just hold my attention better, which isn't a bad thing at all. This is still an A-tier FNaF gameplay loop. I still want to know how do we generate more sugar though. Alright, next mission is once again a two-parter, this time with Smudger as main protagonist. We are trying to unpossess 3 threats, both diesels from the second game and modified lorry 3 that is some monster truck. What? Okay, the further I get into this game, the more it looks like it has cool shit from at the wall, and it all somehow seems to stick. Even if it makes no sense whatsoever. Alright, so as Smudger, you have to survive until 6 AM for some reason, and you have several tools to defend against enemies. You can rotate with spacebar like in the office, and close the gate with G. If you see Derek with a spike behind you, shut the gate until you hear diesel horn. In front of you, Lori 3 will sometimes drive in with the tires screeching, and to scare her away you activate your lamp with L. And Diesel 40 has one of less logical mechanics. With M you can mute all the surrounding sounds, including the rain and the arrival sounds for both Derek and Lori to listen for engine sounds. When you hear them, that means Diesel 40 is nearby and you need to put up a shield with S. I don't understand why was the mute button a necessary step in all of this. I think rain would be plenty enough to hide the engine sounds. So why add another step to what really feels like a mechanic that could be something simpler yet equally effective? And do not get me started on the controls of this segment. I mean for real. What is up with big Trevi and weird button allocation? Here, let me highlight all the buttons used here and tell me if this layout makes sense. Like, couldn't it all be kept on one side of the keyboard? Was using the entire keyboard length necessary? All this to say that this night was pretty boring and not interesting. Not bad, just very much mediocre. And then we get to part 2, boss fight against Vampire. Oh hell yeah, let me murder that guy for all the shit he gave me in the third game. Once again, we are thrown into a new gameplay style. Because of course, we can't reuse the boss fight scheme that we already have implemented and the player is already familiar with. So with left click you shoot the mines down so they don't damage you, and try to hit Vampire along the way. He has 2 attacks, either charging at you requiring the mouse to be kept in this circle, or throwing a rock that has to be defended with a shield on S. At least that part is consistent. Again, this boss fight wasn't bad, it was just boring with all the wait time between me being able to hit him. Bosses seriously have too many iframes for their own good. Also, where the hell are we again? Weren't we just in some downtown area? How are we in the mountains? Either way, we defeat Vampire and move to Night 5, which is kind of just yet another Night 4 but harder. Although on start we get a cutscene where we see Stanley talking to Duke about his plans until this new train Ratchet interrupts to report that Tim is alive and he gives every other train and the landbower that didn't give us one more night. And in the phone call with Smudger we are tasked with pinging up a package after shift from Smudger. We survive of course, even if I did die to Maui and train a few times, but no matter, this was actually pretty fun. So time for the last mission, Special Cargo. This is the most unique of the missions we had, and in my opinion the best one. You have to wait out 360 seconds, 6 minutes to be precise, until cargo arrives. But we aren't alone. First, there is new Lorry 4 added. You need to walk between left and right side of the port by clicking these arrows, and when you hear engine sounds, you hide in your car and watch her disappear. The second mechanic is better, that being the telescope. With it you can observe the surrounding water for potential threats. The threat being a boat. I mean, they added a landbower and bus, did you really not expect a boat to be added? This is Bull's Throat, apparently another enemy that appeared in only one episode and shouldn't even be on the water, but sure, we need an enemy. He appears in 3 different positions when looking at the water, and depending on where he is, you need to turn on your phone and shoot out flare in the direction he's not at. So for example, if you see him on the left, you use either the middle or the right flare. You only have 3, but he doesn't come off that often to really mess up with you. If you make sure to check the water after dealing with Lori, you should be golden. Though couldn't this mission be a bit shorter? Like come on, make it 4 minutes instead of 6, we don't need to wait that long. Especially since threats don't appear immediately, they come sequentially at I think around 300 seconds and 200 seconds, so just cut the time out a bit. But as the last mission type in the game, I think it's a high note to end on. Finishing it, we get the cutscene where Smudger finally shows us the cargo he ordered, that being an engine body. Now why would he need it? Because the 4th guy from the title screen finally decided to make himself known, the ghost train appears and thanks Smudger for letting him live again. And he possesses the train body, giving it a face. Now, who is that 4th train? And why didn't he appear earlier? No clue, but I will explain him to the best of my ability after we are done with the game. And before we finish the game, we have to play Night 6, which this time isn't a max mode, but a boss fight kind of night. Despite still happening in the office, every mechanic was replaced or given a brand new one, so let's go over them in the order the game shows us in the tutorial, from top left to bottom right. Let's start with Ratchet, our door guy replacement. He appears in the window, then at the door, and this time instead of using a turret, we have a whole ass gun to use. Finally, an appropriate weapon to use against those metal beasts. though we only fire blanks and our gun holds only one bullet. No matter, it's pretty much just a turret with less ammo. Shoot him when he appears. Next, to our left, our Moe blocker got replaced with a hit controller. You can raise it up to 80, and as low as 10, before the alarm starts to blur, and if left for too long, causes a newcomer Davenger to kill you. But this is like his only appearance and he doesn't do much else, so let's move on to the cameras. So it seems like the bull's throat had followed us, because we are given 5 new cameras. If you see a boat on them, close the gate and wait for him to leave. He's definitely the cause of most of my deaths simply because everyone else seems to move quicker than he does, meaning that by the time I remember to check on him, I already have a bolt in my face. Not a bad mechanic by enemies, but definitely distracting, or not distracting enough now that I think about it. Next, the diesel was replaced with the one and only Thomas the Tank Engine, upgraded to feature more spikes and Evo. You have a camera with little space left, letting you take 3 photos. You give Thomas a photo shoot, he retreats, and you delete the gallery even if tip before the night implies that there are more photos on the camera. But deleting the whole gallery would mean that every single photo gets erased, so... Trevi, have you ever used a camera or did you just add it because it sounded cool? And now it's time for brand new mechanic added tonight. Well, brand new in that it doesn't use a previous mechanism. On the bottom right, you have a car park option. Pressing it makes you run to the car park, where from time to time, Gerald appears. If you leave him alone for too long, he will do this annoying phantomous jump scare that works in tandem with another mechanic, Stanley's Rage. This meter in the bottom left slowly fills up as night progresses, or when Gerald jump scares you. Fill it to full, and you get murdered by Stanley himself. And to prevent Gerald from jump scaring you, you need to spray some water on him. These aren't a bad mechanics per se, but just like every other mechanic tonight outside of the alarm for the heater, you do not get a single sound cue for anyone attacking you. Front door, cameras, mirror behind you, car park, none of them give you a single sound cue that would indicate someone is attacking you, making the gameplay loop a bit more of continuous going back and forth between the activities in hopes you catch someone before they kill you. This is a bit of an issue in the main Five Nights too, but definitely not to this extent. And yeah, I did die a bunch of times, but what can you expect when you throw a player into a new environment? I'm just a bit perplexed why the sound cues weren't included, considering how much you have to manage with this night being decently challenging. Oh, and at 5 AM this music begins playing with photo of Smudger in the corner. This really couldn't get more cheesy. And eventually, you survive! The last mission is about to begin. The end of the line. Once again, we get a small cutscene before it, with a bit of talk between Smudger, Duke and Stanley, and then we get thrown into the last boss battle, which also just happens to be the worst minigame in the whole game. Yes, the worst one, even worse than driving in that stupid car around the neighborhood, is the final boss. And I'm afraid I'm not exaggerating too much. So once again, you are in the boss fight mode from the earlier boss fight, but you have more room to maneuver around. Smudger can now jump, which is bound to... control for some reason? Come on dude, spacebar is the jump button, not control. You still have the shield, but now instead of having a short duration and a bit of cooldown, can be activated for as long as necessary with depleting charge bar. You can still shoot Ko as an attack, but also charge forward, which blocks every other input. Ko deals 2 damage, charge 4. Stanley has 100 HP and you have 50. And now, it is time for everything to fall apart because of Stanley's attacks. First attack Stanley has is throwing some Ko at you. Not too hard to avoid as long as you jump, but wonky hitbox is still your number 1 enemy and will cause you to take unnecessary hits. Second is activating his own shield and throwing some Ko in unavoidable pattern, requiring you to put your shield up and wait out the attack. And the third one is the charge from the side to side, which I swear to God has the most nonsensical hitbox of them all. From experience, jumping is not the solution as you would think, because you will get hit no matter what and lose a lot of HP. Meaning you have to use the shield, or what I found the most effective, staying pretty much inside of Stanley to avoid the hitbox, because I do not know where the part that hits me even is. Sometimes it hits me from way further than it should, sometimes it doesn't hit me when I'm literally in front of him where he begins the attack. Oh, and when you pass 50 HP, Stanley gets mad and shoots Ko in even worse patterns than before, deals even more damage, cannot be hit while charging, and shield attack takes so long to finish that by the time he decides to do it twice in a row, you won't have enough shield to survive it because guess what? It's all RNG. Everything in this fight is random. Completely random if he decides to alternate between the moves or just keep spamming the shield attack to ruin your chances of survival on top of all the seemingly misaligned hitboxes. This needed some adjustments and feels like it was shipped out too quickly. I would say that there weren't any playtesters testing this and There actually may not have been any playtesters testing this because they are known in the credits, unless they went uncredited, which I guess can also be true. My best guess is that because this game was not playtested at all, or maybe was only tested by Big Trevi, the issues in this fight were not really noticed. Oh, and if I'm to throw a little bit more fuel to this fire, there is voice acting in this battle. And sure, I haven't really talked about voice acting beforehand, because, well, it was not really that annoying. With the amount of characters, I'd say the voice acting was pretty alright, wasn't too annoying, and felt mostly on point. But especially here, in this minigame, the voice acting really got annoying. Like, I'm pretty sure this was supposed to sound very cool and epic, but the end result is just getting on my nerves.
Bring it, you dirty slapball! Go back to your generator shit!
Stanley, stop. Don't make me do this. It's over, Stanley. Surrender now.
All this to say that while I did not enjoy my time with this minigame, there are definitely worse, but there are also better, even inside of this game, like the plane fight was 10 times better than this one was. And while yeah, I gave it 6 out of 10 and thought it was pretty mediocre, at least it didn't get on my nerves as badly as this one got. But eventually, with not out of willpower left in me, I bet it.
Please, can we just stop this now? Let me go, Stanley. Get off of me.
I told you Dookie would survive. I didn't say anything about you. If I can't have your kill, I will have you instead.
Are you alright, mate?
Yeah, I'll live.
I don't understand, Smudger. Why? Why would you do all this to save me?
To be honest, I don't really know fully.
Because we wanted the old gang back together, silly.
Nice to see you again, young'un. And Smudger, thank you. I am truly very, very sorry. I hope you can forgive me.
Let's go home. I figure you two have a lot to talk about.
That will be nice.
Excellent idea. I have waited too long to start working again.
Tim?
Yeah?
I just realised, where is home, mate?
Well, the engines we saved will give some money, selling them to other railways, as long as we make them kid-friendly again first.
Well, it seems to be the end of Five Nights at Smudgers 4. Well, okay, this isn't quite the end, because we have one more achievement to finish. And it's all connected with the items tab on the main menu. And items are random toys you can find every night on different camera, each giving you a special short episode showing you some lore of the game. On night 1 you can find Toy Train on cam 2C, night 2 has Teddy Bear on cam 3D, night 3 has Toy Truck on 3B, Roblox Snoop on 2B on night 4, Smudger Toy on 2A on 5th night, and on night 6 at Car Park there is a Smug Toy. Now I have no clue who that is either. Alright, give me like half an hour to watch these cutscenes to try to understand the lore of the series. Well, I honestly understand even less now, and I can positively say that Smudger's character was kind of assassinated in this game. Yes, we are talking about an assassination of a character that appeared in one episode of the show and never after. But I thought up to the third game Smudger was kind of accurate. The source material, you know, the one episode where he appeared at, it was implied Smudger was a little gremlin who liked causing chaos, and for some reason these episodes and the fourth game make him the most normal train you can imagine. For some reason, he is made to be this good guy who is willing to work, and as you can imagine, this doesn't really fit the description of him we got from the episode. Once you notice it, you can't really unsee it. Right, this was supposed to be about the lore of the series. Okay, so we have 6 episodes, which revolve around some missing tracks with everyone trying to find the culprit. Episode 1 we get elaboration regarding the ghost train, now learning he was called Steamer. He's friends with Duke and Smudger, and that's about it for his character. We learn a bit about Stanley, who is now implied to be a repurposed war train, and he's a better Smudger than Smudger was in this game, and in the shorts too. He's an annoying prick who could care less about everyone, and ends up destroying the shed where Duke and Steamer reside.
Behind you.
Second episode has us watching conversation between Smudger and Albert, who is yet another train we didn't know existed, and he suspects that Stanley is behind everything because of his tendencies. Third one has Steamer and Smudger tell some spooky train stories. Smudger decides to talk about his personal story at his old place. He tells that the place was so unimportant that bigger nearby station was more important. Okay, and the thing that was important was a blacksmith engine called Mask Train, who was a perfect little engine. He worked well, was liked by the manager, meaning everyone was jealous of him. So one day, engines decided to pull a prank on him, which caused him to accidentally burn alive in his own shed. I have no idea how one can manage to burn an engine, but the engines that caused it blamed the masked one for this, and manager somehow believed them, deciding to send the body for scrapping. However, the driver of the masked engine was very mad at the manager for believing them, so he stole the body of Masked and ran away. Years later, while the trains were having a small party, the engine came back as some kind of revived monster. He killed the manager and then everyone else inside, both murdering and burning everyone with a flamethrower. And after all that, he ran away before the police arrived. And before Smudger is able to say the name of the engine, they get scared away by Albert, who is confirmed to be the reason for tracks disappearing. Fourth one begins with a talk between Duke and Stanley, who I swear to god is just replacement for the Smudger at this point. Then Smudger finds out about Albert stealing the tracks and both end up falling off the cliff. Don't worry, they are fine. Duke finds out about this and praises Smudger, who, again, I cannot believe it's the same guy as we got described earlier. Fifth one has Albert saying goodbyes, wishing death and swearing revenge. Everyone else talks about some unrelated stuff until Stanley notices what happened and is very much mad because they laughed at Albert being taken away. After some war flashbacks, he declares everyone an enemy and conspires with his driver to do something. And the last one shows us the fate of Steamer. While going back home after getting a new paint job, Steamer gets ambushed by Stanley after his driver placed some stolen metal rods on the tracks of a bridge, making Steamer derail and fall into the water. And the ghost of Steamer haunts the bridge and tries to cross it, but never manages to. Once again, Smudger, being such a nice guy, appears one day, makes it so Steamer can pass the bridge, and promises to give him back the life he deserved. And then the credits roll again. And after that, we get one more little thing. On the bottom of items menu, we have a box. Watching all cutscenes causes it to open, revealing a brand new cutscene. On a boat of some kind, we are a security guy who wants to go to sleep before the boat starts sinking. But while leaving the office...
Oh, what the hell? Who are you? What are you doing? Wait, it's you! No! Please, no, don't do it!
Okay, what the hell? So you are telling me that not only is the masked engine Smudger's brother, but that this whole thing was a sequel bait? We are truly entering fanfiction territory now. No wait, we are on the fanfiction territory now because Smudger's character is completely wrong. But outside of that, this is all that Smudger's 4 Engines at War has to offer. And after playing it all for the first time, I have to say the best way I can describe it is... it's an early FNaF fan game that had a budget behind it. This entry gave me this very specific feeling of nostalgia, like I was playing a game that was made in 2016 initially and was worked on for the next few years before release. The graphics are pretty good, mechanics in the main nights are fun, the story was honestly so ridiculous I just had to see where it went, and honestly I was not really satisfied with it by the end. Okay, I was satisfied with the ending, I was not satisfied at all with the mini cutscenes. It included minigames that were kind of an okay break from the main nights, even if some of them were pretty annoying. Voice acting was amateurish, but it just added to the atmosphere if you ask me. And while yeah, I do think that this is the best Five Nights at Smudgers game, I think that the minigames drag it down quite a bit with their lack of polish, and would ultimately love for some kind of update or updated release that could maybe fix a bit of the junk. Or don't, maybe you consider it part of the experience. Does my opinion matter? Of course it doesn't, because it was a hit. Definitely seemed to have gotten the most coverage and views out of all the games, which was very much deserved for the amount of work put into it. However, don't forget that secret ending. There is one more game that is cooking, and supposedly is meant to be the best one yet. The only issue is that it is still not released. Smudgers' Wanton brother is not a fifth entry in the series. Yeah, the game that was supposed to release in 2020 is still not released. And there are a lot of good reasons for why it didn't release. And to cut this 7-year-long development cycle short, Cherry decided to cut the series up, with Five Nights Smudgers series being in its own universe, with its own fifth entry that is not going to be Wanton brother, and Wanton brother becoming the first entry in his personal series. Now, does this make a sense to you? Because it really doesn't to me. And that alternate universe seems to still be in the works because I cannot find it anywhere. There are teasers, and Chevy, in spite of lack of motivation and life giving him some issues, has definitely improved as a creator from what I can see, but since I'm covering the whole series, I'm going to finish it all by playing the 4-mission demo released in 2020 when the game was still the 5th entry. Oh, and there was also an earlier demo, but since all other demos are lost, this one is as well. We begin with the cutscene showcasing the massacre we heard from Smudger back in the 4th entry, which was fine. Title screen is pretty interesting, with Smudger's mask and some trains in his eyes, and on this misty background. Very cool. We begin with Mission 1, a gigantic disaster, where as detective we try to escape a sinking boat as we have evidence against Smudger and he's on our tail. You walk on this linear path trying to open the security room to call mainland about the crash. To do it, you need keys. And to open the box in which keys are in, you need an axe. Then you have to get a phone wire to fix the cut line, and then, finally, you can exit. While walking, your character turns a bit red, and if you become fully red, you die. And if you see steam in front of you, hide in the cabin and wait for Smoother to ride by. And you have a limited time signified by creaking. And that's it for the mission. It was pretty easy if you ask me. You get the scene of ship falling apart and get thrown back to the main menu, able to pick the second mission, Midnight Mail Rush. This time Smudger and Tim are about to finish their shift as useful workers of Sodor, but realize that they don't have much time to cross the entire island before time is up, and they cause the classic confusion and delay. This is simpler than you were made to believe. You have to jump between rails to avoid tracks and trains to not lose too much health, and in the corner you have meter for speed, remaining distance and call. From experience, you want to be going around 100 all the time, otherwise you won't make it in time. And in spite of being called a strategic mission, the only strategy I found is to pour around 60% of coal at the start of it, keep speed above 90, and avoid everything that's in your way. I don't really see the point of calling it a strategy. When finishing the mission, Tim talks about his brother who was saving old trains, and while going to save Smudger, got into a car crash. In his final words, he asked Tim to find Smudger, and that's why Tim was so nice to him. Anyway, you may see that compared to the earlier entries, I'm blazing through this one, aren't I? Well, mission 3 is the reason why. Scared Beside the Sea is a stupid, broken pile of mess that somehow got released to the public with purpose of mentally damaging anyone who plays it. The idea behind it is very cool. Once again, as the detective, you get to Sodor's beach and have to escape from it as Smudger is still chasing you. You have 4 minutes before daylight shows up and reveals your location, and you have this radar that is supposed to help you find the way. However, you only have 4 minutes, and one scan takes around half a minute, so it wastes too much time. You click around the screen to choose direction and begin walking there. While walking between the areas you can run, but don't run too much or Smudger kills you. Smudger has supposedly two behaviors. When you arrive at the location and you hear this hissing, you need to run back to the previous location and then back to the location you were at. And if he doesn't appear, he can give you an error, at which point you need to avoid going the wrong way without knowing which way is the right one. However, I think those rules are straight up bullshit. Watch this bit of gameplay and tell me what did I do wrong. Can you find a single mistake? I did what I was asked to do, and I still died. I do not see what kind of mistake did I do there. This mission, for some reason, has Smudger randomly killing you for seemingly no reason. Avoid hissing and walk back to the location, you die. Walking between areas, you die. Run between areas, you die. I cannot, and I repeat, cannot tell you what was the reason behind all these deaths. Did I run too much? Was I too slow? Or did I breathe the wrong way? No idea. I don't have a way of checking if I make too much noise. I don't know if Smudger is about to kill me or not. It all seems to be up to RNG. And I got stuck here for 3 hours. Well, okay, I took a break after losing hope the first time to play Resident Evil 7, a better game to calm me down. Then lost my hope again, took a break to take a shower, came back one more time, and just as I was about to give up, I did it. I cannot tell you how I did it. I think I just got lucky. And of course, this mission has one set path you have to follow to win. And because I was stuck on it for so long, I memorized it. Left, right, up, left, right, up. I am cursed with this knowledge. Right, the cutscene. So Smudger gets approached by iOS, a paranormal division on Sutter that wants to take Smudger into custody. And they do. So on mission 4, Big Rick's Rescue, you play as them following the train transporting Smudger. You need to stay close enough to it, and while at it, avoid horrid lorries on the road. They either appear in front of you with their headlights on, and to dodge them you need to turn your lights off and drive away. And when checking the rear mirror you will sometimes see eyes, and you need to max out your speed to avoid the lorry. But you can't stay beside the train for too long, cause the train operator notices you. It is honestly the best minigame of the bunch. I really like this one. It doesn't overstay its welcome, it's actually pretty fun to learn, and you know, it's actually pretty good, that's all. At the end of it, it turns out Albert is in the same containment unit as Smudger is assigned to, and he tries to be nice to him before we get credits. I have hope for Wanton Brother, I really do. This demo was not that great, with half of the minigames being rather bad, and other half being just okay, with one being pretty good. I really hope that the 6 years that went by since the release of it have changed something in it. And if the devlogs are anything to go by, it has, and I'm hopeful that if the new demo ever releases, it won't feature the psychological torment of Scared Beside the Beach. And so, it seems we have reached the end of the line. Well, the line is technically still being built, but we do not know when it will be extended anytime soon, so this is where the last station is at. So, what did I think about the series? It was pretty alright, all things considered. There are some less than stellar parts in it, sometimes it was overstaying its welcome, the story kind of lost the charm for me by the end of the 4th game. It was overall a B-grade FNaF fan game. Yes, this is once again not a pinnacle of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, but if my earlier videos are anything to go by, I am not here to cover those pinnacles. I am here to give some spotlight to slightly forgotten fan games, play them, and review them with as neutral position as I can master. I may not know what this series was for the longest time, but now I have to say that I recommend everyone to at least play the 4th entry. Sure, I had issues with it, but it is still better than a lot of different games I played during my lifetime. And now, I think I will need to have a nap, because the next video that I promised a few months ago is not even halfway there, and I will need a lot of energy to finish it. I will hopefully see you next time in the longest video on this channel yet.